Well, gang, day 2 up at the garage working on this Duratec build. I actually did a little bit without filming yesterday, so I have got a little further ahead, but I am sort of about ready to pull this engine out. So we've got all the hard bolts unmounted. I started to pull the engine out and then realized there's still a couple things to clear. So anyway, let's head on in. So behind me, got the engine sort of strapped up to the hoist. And two things. One thing was my fault. The second thing just happened. The oil filter assembly, so the attachment is stuck getting over an engine mount. So I'm gonna have to remove that. So I'll just show you where that is. As you can see, down in the little bottom of the engine bay. There we go. So we got the mount, obviously where the bolt is, and those holes sitting forward on the actual mount on the engine, and then the engine, the oil filter is just down located below that. So it's getting stuck, can't get it up and over. And then I was trying to figure out what was holding the engine from moving further forward, and that was just my bad. So if you have a look inside the cabin, and I probably avoided this on purpose, or did it semi-consciously just because I didn't want to go into the cabin because of the mold, but I forgot to remove that little stick down there, the shift lever. So need to get in there, actually start pulling that apart and take the stick off before I can take that gearbox out. So that's where we're at, and I imagine that in hopefully an hour, maybe an hour and a half, I should be able to have this engine out of this thing. So we'll get to work again. All right, so that's pretty quick and easy. There's just a bolt going through the lever, which is now there, but the bolt going through it, you take it off, the nut off one side, you tighten it onto the other side to pull the bolt out, and it comes off. So the gear stick is off, and now I just have to get that oil filter assembly off the engine, and we should be able to pull this thing out. So it appears that everything is free and clear. The back of the drive shaft just dropped out of the gearbox, which was great. That's what I had hoped it would happen. I didn't realize there would be no seal between the drive shaft input and the gearbox, or maybe there is a seal and the seal's gone, I don't know, but I had a little bit of a leak. I'll show you down here before I caught it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's still draining out into a little pan, but I did have a bit of an oil spill of transmission fluid, you know, gearbox oil. So it's just a little bit further, almost have the fan clearing the radiator. I just stopped again for a moment because there's more fluid draining out of that gearbox. So to minimize the amount of mess, I'll just hold on a minute or two till it drains down. So one of the more frustrating things about doing jobs like this is you go into them anticipating a good clean operation. You're going to be having lots of pans and lots of rags and lots of things to catch fluids, and then when you start banging on with it, you're getting fluid everywhere, unless you're extremely careful. I've tried to be as careful as I can, but it's still frustrating. Yeah, so if you are doing jobs like this, pulling an engine, changing a gearbox on any kind of car, be aware they're pretty messy jobs, and this one's turning out to be a little messier than I'd anticipated. But again, we're in a shop environment, which is nice. I can do a proper cleanup at the end, and everything will be back to normal, hopefully clean and ready to go. Well, gang, sorry I missed the actual extraction slight part of that maneuver there, but we did get the engine out, as you saw. Got it on the ground now, sitting on a dolly. I'm going to be putting it stripping it down a little further before putting it onto the engine mount that I've got. So here it is. So sitting, as you can see, just on the floor there, and we'll have a quick look at it. So it's still got the part of the exhaust on, alternator mount, on this side, gearbox obviously, a few hoses that I have yet to connect, or disconnect I should say, but that's it. So the day's sort of come to an end. Day 2, well, sort of day 3-ish, but day 2 mainly. Engine's out, which is great. Just taking the transmission off the back of the engine, which is great. So the actual engine now is sitting on the hoist, just waiting to go onto my engine stand. So I need to pick up a few long bolts to make that happen, bolts that will mount into where the transmission bolted onto the engine, basically. But so it's sitting down there on the floor behind me. Sorry for the lighting in here, guys, but there it is, engine sort of strapped up, sitting roughly on the ground, but a little bit above. Engine and gearbox have been separated, transmission. I say gearbox because I'm British originally. And so that's the engine sitting there. I still have to take off some mounts. There's an alternator mount on that side of the engine there, just next to the exhaust manifold. Need to take the exhaust manifold off. But all that I can do on the stand once it's on there. I just don't have bolts long enough to mount the engine to the stand properly today, or I would have done it and we would have started to strip it apart. So that's it. Empty engine bay in the truck, and the Duratec now ready to go onto the actual engine stand. So gang, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you're wanting to watch more of this build, feel free to subscribe. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.